my opinion about Abdullah Badawi. I think he has been much less effective than many people would have liked him to have been. He came into power on a wave of tremendous goodwill, and that goodwill is reflected by the number of seats that Barisan Nasional won. Admittedly, part of that goodwill was probably relief that it wasn't Mahathir anymore. So you have this very nice gentleman as opposed to the rather pugnacious Mahathir. So he came in and he promised us to fight corruption. He promised a more harmonious, fairer society, more transparency in government. And can we see that happening? Do we see that happening? The issue of corruption doesn't seem to be being tackled at the kind of scale that people would like it to be seen, that people would like to see. The issue of harmony in between races and between religious groups have actually become much worse than before he was elected, and so I think he made many promises which appear not to have been fulfilled or even coming close to being fulfilled, and in that sense probably quite disappointing. The Barisan's approach to governance cannot be judged based on the 4 years. They have been in government for 50 years, and they have never tasted defeat. They have never been in opposition. They have always been in power. And along with that, I think, comes a sense of complacency. And that complacency is reflected in the way that they appear to be not very sensitive to the growing sophistication of the Malaysian populace. The citizens now are not happy to just be told that there's enough food on your plate and there's a roof over your head. There is now a desire for quality of life which reflects our rights as individuals and which respects us as human beings, thinking human beings. We do not like to be dictated to anymore. We do not like to be told what is right and what is wrong anymore. But they don't seem to see that. They're so used to being in charge. They're so used to being the boss that I think they have underestimated the new desires of a society which is growing in sophistication. And this can be seen in how they deal with issues like the Bersih rally, the Hindraf rally. You have people who are on the streets peaceably, who have requested permits as you had told them to, who were rejected the permits for no logical reason that I can see, and who rightfully feel frustrated and rightfully want to show their feelings, which is their human right to do so. And what do? You come down on them, and you come down on them hard. Life in this country is much more than just whether we have enough rice anymore. We are looking to live life in the way we want to live life, to have a government that we could hold accountable, and they don't seem to be understanding this. They're still very heavy-handed, very tough, and I think that's the result of being in power for so long that complacency has set in. Arrogance, you might say. Whoever's in power, if they want to stay in power, then they will have to listen to the people, right? And I can't imagine that the opposition are so stupid that they would destroy everything if they were ever to get into power. And just because they haven't done it before shouldn't be an excuse to say that they're going to destroy it. We don't know. One can only trust that there's enough intelligence amongst all of them to make sure that we maintain a steady path economically and the rest of it. But the point is, even if PAS came into power, right, Even if PAS came to power, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to take the kind of hard line that they want to take, or they say they will take, because you can't. It would mean that you will lose power the next time around. You have to mellow down. I can't imagine PAS coming in and say, okay, fine, tomorrow Islamic State, end of story, right? Because if you still have a democratic system in place, the next time you come together, people would say, no, this is not what we voted you in for. There are other issues at hand, and not everybody wants an Islamic State, for example. So we have this fear of the unknown, but my point is that why are we so scared of the unknown, first, and secondly, even the unknown has to mellow down once they're in power. Everybody does. Everybody's a firebrand when they're in the opposition. But once you're in power, you're faced with realities. And, what one hopes is that you adapt to those new responsibilities, to all the people, not just the people who you think are going to support you in the elections, but to all the people. And it's that responsibility which elections are about, because elections remind those who are in power about that responsibility. That's why it's so important. The first agenda, I think, would be to really deal with the socio-economic problems of the country in a non-racial way, and to do it openly. Whoever's in power, you have to start dealing with our problems, and you've got to start dealing with them without looking through the racial eyeglass. And this includes not just helping poverty-stricken parts of the community, but also other things like governance, right? We have to go beyond. I work in a public university. It's really, really time that our government institutions, our public institutions, are working based on merit, because otherwise we're not going to be able to develop. If our best people, whatever color they might be, are not here working for the good of the country, then we're just going to struggle. We're going to continue to struggle. So that's what we have to do. Whoever's in power has got to start looking at the country not through the eye lens of race, but for the good of the nation as a whole. And they've got to do this openly, and they've got to do this clearly, and they've got to fight any sort of bigotry which would come up from sections of the public which are, of course, there. We know that there are members of our community, our Malaysian community, who are bigoted, who are racist. And these forces must be faced down. They must not be pandered to. They must be faced down. And that's what I hope will happen in the future. Will the Barisan be denied 2/3 majority? I don't think so. It's going to be very, very difficult. Because the constituencies have been delineated in such a way that it's very hard for Barisan to actually lose the 2/3 majority. They will definitely lose the majority. You can't match 90% of the seats twice in a row. Okay, so they will definitely lose seats. Whether they will lose enough seats to lose a 2/3 majority, I'm doubtful. All right. If you look at the last elections, on average, it took about 16,000 votes for Barisan to get a seat. On average, it took about 160,000 votes for opposition to get a seat. Why is that? That's because of the delineation. The constituencies have been broken up in such a way. So it would be interesting to see the percentage of votes, because that would be a much more realistic gauge of public sentiment. So I seriously doubt that Barisan is going to lose the 2/3 majority. But then most people seriously doubted that Spurs were going to beat Chelsea in the Carling Cup final, but they did. It was such a happy day. I'm still smiling now.